There's an enormous amount of new energy and new consciousness coming into this planet. It's manifesting in all these ways, such as the internet and discoveries in medicine. Every single field of endeavor is completely different than it used to be, absolutely changed. Generations are fracturing because from one generation to the next, the entire context shifts. My father was deeply grieved when I made it clear to him that I was never going to enter his world. I just wasn't going to do it. By the grace of God, he came around, but nonetheless. But that's just the way it is right now. But this enormous energy is coming in, and everybody's feeling it. But there's basically two responses to it. One is, there's all this tremendous energy. How can I use it to get more for myself? And so we see power and ego and avarice and worse, cruelty and dominance and war. And they're just taking the divine energy and directing it in the way that their particular destiny is pushing them. And then there's a whole bunch of the rest of us. And there's a whole lot more of us than, how shall I say it, than they know. Because the power and the public eye is all on those who are using it for self-aggrandizement. But there's an enormous number of us who are doing something. We're taking all that same energy and we're just using it really, really differently. And I got pessimistic for a while, but now I've gotten super optimistic for a whole lot of reasons. One of which is we already know what we're doing. It's self-evident to us. Kindness, take care of each other. If I have 4 apples and you need food, I'll give you 3 of mine. Why would I not do that? And the whole idea of taking this power to get more for ourselves, it's repellent. It's not only not attractive, it's far, far worse than that. And what is happening here, which is such a marvelously original idea, I've been a founding member of 2 communities, and both of those communities, not entirely by any means, by my personal effort, have risen from nothing and become something. When we were starting an elementary school, which we have where I live now in Palo Alto, 30 years we've had it. At the very beginning, we started the school, and I'm not a school teacher, but I'm an entrepreneur, so I know how you have nothing and then have something. So the school was just a generic project, there wasn't one, we needed to have one. But we were in the unusual position. People are very protective of their children. You might have noticed that. And I had to persuade people to give their children to our school that didn't exist unless they gave us their children. It was a hard sell, let's just put it like that. But I was sitting in the living room of where we lived with some of these parents, and there was a lot of doubt in the room, and I just realized, I said, oh yeah, you're looking at a blank spot on the floor, and you're seeing a blank spot on the floor, but I don't see a blank spot, I see a school. I see a glorious school. It's right there, and all we have to do, well, you do have to give us your kids, but you can take them back. We're not gonna own them. We're just gonna borrow them during the day. Right? You do have to give your heart to it. You give your heart to it in the right way, with that power that's coming in, that's bigger than all of us, and we just keep at it day after day. Community is part of what I do. I also am involved in meditation and spiritual teaching, and people ask me lots of questions. Because to live rightly is not so easy. And there's lots of shadow forces even within us, of course, what to speak of I love your phrase, dominant society. Yeah, it's not a time where you look around and see the light everywhere. And we look inside ourselves, we have difficulties. People ask me, what's the secret? And I've gotten it down after all these decades. Don't quit. Just a few letters, very small words. Just don't quit. It's amazing what can be done by belief No, belief is not the right word. By a sense that I am not alone, and I don't just mean we have each other, we are part of a great force that's obviously, on one hand, is trying to tear the world apart, and on the other hand, in the most extraordinary ways, including the Cloud Appreciation Society. But I know it's a small thing, but it isn't. You know, it's like everywhere you look, people are just like pulling their little bit of light out and trying to give it. And then in places, and this is one of those places, you know, the Polestar land and the Polestar vision, and it's way past just a bare place in the carpet now, and there's lots of people in it who really know what they're doing, who've done it before and know how it's done and know how not to quit and really make it happen. You know that this power is really coming down. And the choice is really ours. Like, I love the Shackleton thing. You didn't say it, but I think he got hundreds of applications to that. 5,000 people. You know? Because there's a power in vision, there's a power in doing something else. We know what it looks like to do nothing. You know, we know what it looks like to live and die. We see it around us all the time. But every so often, and I think we're living in one of those times, we are in the Chinese curse. We are in the middle of the Chinese curse. May you live in interesting times. That's how they call it, right? That's like, I really want to make somebody's life awful. You say, may you live in interesting times. We are living in interesting times. Society is usually shaped like a cigar. It's just like there's a few good people on this end and there's a few bad people on this end, and most people just hang around and, I don't know, now we watch television, I don't know what they used to do, but just do nothing much in the middle. But in interesting times, the middle gets really thin, and you get pushed either to the side of the light or you get pushed to the side of the shadow. So these are not times where you really can be neutral because the extremes are too great. But of course, at such times, there's so much dynamic, wonderful possibility. And it's not, we have to really change this a little bit. I was talking to Denison Bailey, whose land is now being called Polestar, called to be Polestar, just as Steve was saying. No, I got your name. Bruce. Yeah, I just, forgive me. Bruce was saying about, you know, the land itself, there's something mystical. You end up where you're supposed to be. But, you know, Dennis and Bailey have grown food on that land for so long. And we're of an age, we've known each other also for a very long time. I met them 40 years ago, at least here, was it in this place? Yeah, I came here with Swami Kriyananda all that time ago. And I think about life now less in terms of what it looks like. You know, we have this wonderful plan back here, and all those little colored squares are going to turn into real things that we can walk into, and it'll shelter us from the weather, and all that stuff's going to happen. But none of us are going to live forever. I'm very unsentimental about dying. I think it's just great. You know? Like it just has to happen. Change is what happens. So I often like to think about my life review. You know, all these people now who die and return and talk to us about this. It's so interesting. What really matters? Because all of us, at some point, what really matters? And what really makes us happy? Paramahansa Yogananda, when he came to America from India in 1920, he came with a little book that was actually ghost written for him, but it was his ideas. He called it The Science of Religion. And the premise was really simple. Every sentient being tries to avoid suffering and to experience happiness. And every single decision we make, how idiotic it might be in retrospect, good idea at the time because we thought it would diminish suffering and increase happiness. But what that story is really about is that where does happiness really come from? It comes when we act in harmony with the greater reality that we are all a part of. We are all part of a greater reality. And when we act in harmony with that, whether it's with the land, with the creatures, with each other, with our own hearts, and that's the only thing that the divine really cares about, because that's all we take with us. You know, the love that we expressed, the love that we received, and who are we? At one point in my life, when I was feeling very insecure about ever amounting to a hill of beans, I think I'm a small mound of beans at this point. You know? There's a few beans there that I can point to. But I needed to come to peace with my own anxieties. So I decided that I started thinking about my life review, and I started thinking that I was a pretty nice person. I wasn't a real nice person at that time, but I was a pretty nice person. But that's not nothing, is it? You know? And what community is about, it's so simple, because it's my whole adult life since I was 24. We just help each other do that. For all the reasons that these gentlemen were saying, you know, we just help each other do that. And we commit to each other in a really deep way. In a really deep way. And then we do something beautiful for God, like Mother Teresa of Calcutta said. Let us do something beautiful for God. Whatever that means to you, for the power that's greater than our individual egos, that will bring light into this world, and we'll just help one another get through. And then we do it with incredible imagination. I'm pointing to the back table back there. You know, I've been friends with these people for a long time, and I watched the volcano eat the other one. I saw you all move back to this place and then get this idea, and then I just started seeing, wow, what a brilliant idea. Let's make a big picture. Intentional neighborhood is a wonderful word for it. But oh my, there's so much more in that. And just that word intention. That we actually are here for a purpose, and we're going to help each other fulfill it. I mean, I stand at the end of a life that went like that. You know, I was part of that very promising crew. My family was Jewish. One of my elder Jewish friends said, the brightest, most promising child of every Jewish family, they all lost one to these weird Indian, you know, hippie movements. We all went out to do something that was lunatic fringe, which seemed to me like a good idea. You know, when my dad protested, I said, you taught me to think for myself. What did you think was going to happen? You know? But we have to think for ourselves, especially now. Because if we just ride the tide, we're going places we don't want to go. But I want to say something, one last thought, just to put it in there. It's just shadow. Therefore, it has no reality. The real reality is the light. The more light there is, the less shadow there is. And that change, yeah, we gather together, and God willing, and with a little help from all of us, we can make those pictures a place that we can walk into. I really believe that we can. I know that we can. Let's put it differently. I think we will. Right? But the main reason to do it is so that we can say for ourselves, there was a time when shadow was pushing against light, and I stood for the light. And we have no idea how powerful we are, really, especially when we band together. Because this is where the world is going. It's going into light. And that's our call. That's who we're meant to be. And we can just put the word inclusive is a very nice word. I mean, you have to have people there who want to do what you're trying to do, but the more deeply we live in the light, the more eccentric we all become, and the more you can just make the most interesting pictures out of the oddest groups. But that originality, which means moving from your point of origin. We find our own point of origin, and then we can sing our own song, and then we can make a life that's worth living when that final moment comes. One of the things that really moved me onto the spiritual path, again, this is me and death, forgive me, but I was about 18, and I was, very promising. I could have done anything. I had privilege and I had talent, and none of it. I didn't want to do any of it because this one night, in my mind, I was awake all night, was I? I don't know. I thought of everything. Oh, I'll become a lawyer. I'll become a doctor. I'll become a college professor. I don't think I ever thought I'd be good at business, but maybe I could marry somebody who was, But I knew there would be a moment when I would be alone taking my last breath. And at that point, all that would matter is who I was inside. Because everything else just goes away at that point. And that was just the decision. And then I will work, I will serve, but I will serve the light. I will find a Polestar, whether it's an ideal or a teacher, and I will follow it, and I won't quit. Highly recommend it. Okay, God bless you.
Thank you, Asha, and thank you, Steve and Bruce. Can we give them a round of applause? I feel like we have a lot to think about and meditate on and just absorb from this evening. So thank you. I got a lot out of every talk. So thank you very much. We did want to. How are we doing on time? It's past 8:30. Getting a little late. We have a couple of questions, and we'll try to keep it brief so that we can close. And I think Diva's going to close us with a little visualization. So, who has a question? And you can direct it to somebody if you want. We can pass this mic around. Anybody? Maybe we don't. I feel pretty full myself, but no. All right. Tomorrow morning, we might be more in the mood for questions because we're going to have a conversation about the vision, and we'll look at the pretty pictures. We'll walk around the land and all that. So come tomorrow and we can discuss this more. And then Diva, are you up for coming up? Yeah, thank you. And can we turn down one layer of lighting? Does anybody know how the lights work?
The one on the left, there's a slide. Link that down. It didn't do anything.
Might talk about the light.
Right. There's the shadow. Actually, that works. That does work, but I'd like to do something a little different. If I could come back on for a second, please. Because I'd like everybody to stand up, if you wouldn't mind. And I'd like to make a circle. One of the things that is so apparent from this evening is that light is expressing uniquely and powerfully in many, many forms. And one of the central principles that I believe is worth entertaining is that God didn't make us, but that Spirit has become us and is expressing equally through each one of us uniquely. And that's why there's so much power in all these different voices, because Spirit never repeats itself, always is unique. And if we open ourselves, there's always power and inspiration in Spirit expressing through us. And one of the great things about what Polestar brings to the table is a chance to celebrate that through each individual. So look around the room and just see Spirit looking back at you. And think about the privilege and the power and the beauty of what happens when, as Bruce spoke to, we have chance encounter, we have connection, we run across each other, and Spirit touches Spirit, we enrich each other. We discover that difference is beautiful, difference is meaningful, difference enriches us and awakens us. And so let's go ahead now and start to turn our attention inward, back to the source. Again, a part of that same teaching is that Spirit is center everywhere, circumference nowhere, that there is no place that Spirit isn't equally. So close your eyes and feel now for the presence of Spirit at your own center. Feel for that presence of stillness and joy. Feel it connecting you with everyone in this room. Feel it connecting you with the vision of awakened spirit that happens in community. Feel it happening through Polestar, through the courageous visioning of Michael and Ann Gornick and all those who show up, that this possibility of life might express itself and create a spot of light where less and less shadow exists and more joy and appreciation becomes an expression of daily light and inspires others to live with that commitment, with that joy. Feel your own relationship as Spirit would inspire you to this vision, to this community. Whatever level of participation is natural from inside. Feel a great groundswell of energy bringing this community to life through our participation, through our goodwill, through our celebration of Spirit through each other. And mentally now see that light spreading farther and farther afield. Washing away the shadow. Let's feel this weekend bringing each one of us into a greater sense of clarity of our relationship to the story, a greater sense of commitment and choice to the light, a greater sense of friendship and peace, of unity and joy. Om Shanti. Amen. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Michael and Ann, for having the courage to start another Odyssey, and to put out the invitation, to it may be hard, it may be interesting, and we may not all come back, but it'll be worth the journey. Thank you all. We'll see you again through this weekend. God bless.
Hope to see a bunch of you tomorrow. If you want to meditate, it starts at